This is Fantastic Four number 36, titled The Attack of the FF, The Frightful Four, with a cover date of March 1964. This issue starts with a scene from inside the Baxter building, where we see Reed and Sue surrounded by a lot of photographers and reporters. The reason is because Reed and Sue have just announced that they are engaged. So all the press is asking questions, taking photos, yada yada. And after many photos, Reed dismisses everyone. But before everyone leaves, a man shows up with an engagement present for Reed and Sue. While that man is getting an autograph from Reed, Ben looks inside the present and sees that it's from the Yancey Street Gang. The Yancey Street Gang, remember, is a group of people who don't like the FF, or at least they make fun of Ben a lot in particular. So Ben, the Thing, opens the present and is then shocked when he sees that the present contains a bomb. So everyone starts panicking, the reporters run out the door, everyone's taking cover, and Ben says that he'll try to muffle the explosion with his hands. So then the bomb explodes. And it was just some roses. Just a little old prank from the Yancey Street Gang, sending a bomb in the mail or whatever. Reed and Sue end up laughing it off and saying that this is probably just their way of congratulating them. And the Thing and Johnny can't really take this lovey-dovey mood that they're in anymore, so they leave. And Reed says that for once he doesn't mind them leaving, which honestly is not true at all, because there's many times when Reed kicks everyone out so that he can work on stuff in peace. And honestly, he's pretty mean about it sometimes too when he does do it. So I don't know what he's talking about there. But anyways, now we switch to another scene in an area that looks like a dock somewhere on the west side of town, where we see a familiar face. It's the face of Paste Pot Pete, who is waiting for Sandman. So Sandman makes an appearance by surrounding Pete in sand. So Pete starts freaking out, and then Sandman materializes and says that he's doing this to show Pete who's going to be the top dog. So this starts off an argument between the two of them, which is then stopped by a third figure, which is the Wizard. Now the Wizard, if you recall, was last seen in Strange Tales number 18, fighting the Human Torch. And that ended with the Wizard floating up into the sky because his anti-grav device broke. Well, now it cuts to a flashback to see how he ended up surviving. The scene starts with Sandman and Paste Pot Pete breaking out of a prison. They start looking for a vehicle that they can use to escape. And what they see is a jet that's starting to take off. Paste Pot Pete says that he can snag the plane with his paste gun and I guess bring it down. They don't show how he did it, but apparently he shot the plane with his paste gun and was able to hold it down so that it wouldn't take off and they could steal it. I guess Pete has that ability, but can't think about it too hard, Anyways, they steal the plane, and as they are flying, they see a man floating in the air. Pete recognizes that it's the Wizard, so they get close to him, and Sandman pulls the Wizard into the jet. The Wizard explains that he was fighting the Human Torch when his anti-grav device broke, and he was left floating up into the air, and he thanks them for saving him. Sandman asks for payment, but the Wizard says that he will repay them by letting them partner up with him, and that he will lead them on a crusade of crime. Pete says that with a brain like the Wizard's guiding them, they could even be the masters of the Fantastic Four, which leads to the Wizard deciding that they need a girl to join them to truly be the evil counterpart to the Fantastic Four. He says that he knows of a girl that would be perfect and that he'll need a few weeks to get her. So I guess the wizard is actually the top dog, not Sandman, even though I think Sandman is clearly the strongest among the three. So now it cuts back to the present where they're meeting again, and the wizard explains that he found the woman and that she could possibly even be stronger than them. He explains that he had heard rumors of her for years, and he went to a Mediterranean island where she had last been seen. We now see a scene where the wizard is following a group of police who are also tracking her down. And when the police have her cornered inside of a cave, she attacks. She appears, calling herself Madame Medusa, and she has long red hair that seems to have a mind of its own. She uses her hair to grab and attack the police and escape. The wizard explains that she was happy to join them when she knew that it was the wizard who was asking. The wizard says that she is waiting for them now, but first he needs to go and get a suit that will be fit for his new rank as the leader of the Frightful Four. So now it cuts back to the Baxter building, where Sue is very busy because so many people are asking for her opinion for the wedding preparations. Reed and Ben are also busy trying to figure out where to fit all the presents that they are receiving, and Johnny is working on a new trick where he throws his fireballs into a chemical screen, which then turns the fireballs into a different color, essentially making his fireballs into fireworks. So now it cuts to a rooftop somewhere not too far away where Sandman and Pastepot Pete are wondering how long they have to wait to be able to attack the FF. The wizard finally shows up, but he has a new suit on that is powered with his anti-grav devices, and with this suit he is able to fly now. And he says that he would like to call himself the Wingless Wizard from now on. He then introduces the group to Madame Medusa, who also has a new suit that the wizard designed. So now the group has a matching purple and blue color look to them, except for Sandman. We come back to the Baxter building again, where we now see that there's an engagement party happening. There is a lot of familiar faces at the party. The X-Men are there, the Avengers are there, Rick Jones, Alicia. The X-Men, though, are trying to pretend that they don't know who Professor Xavier is because they don't want to reveal that he is the secret leader of the X-Men. And even Spider-Man makes an appearance. There's a panel where we see him stealing some cake because he wasn't invited. He says, "I'm sure they would have invited me if they knew where to find me." He then leaves as soon as he sees an aircraft arriving at the roof of the building because he thinks that it's more guests. But it's not new guests, it's the Frightful Four. They land on top of the Baxter building and they go to their positions and wait. And 45 minutes later, all the guests have left and they start the attack. They crawl down the building to a window where they see Ben sleeping. Madame Medusa uses her hair as hands to slowly reach for the light switch to turn it off. But the sound of the switch awakens Ben and the fight begins. Pete shoots Ben with his paste gun. He shoots Ben's mouth and hands to keep Ben from talking and attacking. On top of that, the wizard then sprays Ben with a sleep spray that knocks Ben out. Then Sue enters the room thinking she heard something going on. As she walks in, Pete tries to shoot her with his paste gun, but because Sue was suspicious about the sounds, she had preemptively used her force field around herself as she walked in to protect herself. So Pete misses. Now Reed, who heard Sue yelling, also arrives, but as he is talking to the wizard, Sandman ambushes him from behind. So now Reed is fighting with Sandman, but as he's fighting with Sandman, Pete then ambushes him from behind, who shoots his paste gun at Reed's arms, pinning him down. Then Reed tells Sue to use the technique that they had practiced last week. Sue shows a new technique where she forms two invisible force field balls and throws them at Pastepot Pete and the wizard. before they can attack Reed any further. She then notices that Sandman is trying to reform himself, so she puts a force field around Sandman to try to prevent him from reforming. So, as the three members of the Frightful Four are down, Sue is now the next one to be ambushed from behind. Madame Medusa now enters from a window and uses her hair to restrain Sue. The wizard then sprays Sue with the sleeping spray, which knocks her out. He then goes to Reed and also sprays him with his sleeping spray. With the three members of the Fantastic Four now sleeping, Pete starts to gloat about how they've done the unthinkable and defeated the Fantastic Four. The wizard says that they still need to make the defeat permanent, so he grabs some anti-grav discs from his helmet and attaches them to Ben to make him start floating. So we now cut to the kitchen where Alicia's there and is hearing that something has happened. She wants to do something to help, so she slowly makes her way to the room where the fight happened, and without being noticed, she takes a flare gun from out of Sue's belt. She is able to then put the flare gun together even though she's blind, and she shoots the flare out the window. And not too far away, we see that Johnny is at a garage speaking with some guys about a new car that just got polished. One of the guys sees the flare and alerts Johnny, and Johnny then flames on and heads straight to the Baxter Building. So after Alicia fired the flare, the Frightful Four found her and also sprayed her with the sleeping spray. They then tied all of them together and attached anti-grav discs to all of them, making them all start floating. They take them to the roof and let go of them, and the Fantastic Four, still sleeping, start to float higher and higher into the air. A few moments later, Johnny arrives at the Baxter Building, where he quickly grabs the wizard and pulls him into the aircraft that they arrived in. With only the wizard by himself with a torch trapped in the aircraft, Johnny forces the wizard to take him to his partners. Up in the air, the Fantastic Four finally wake up and they realize that they're floating high in the sky. Reed makes an air pocket to try to preserve the air they have, but he doesn't know how long he could last. Just before Reed blacks out, he sees the aircraft close to them and he stretches his arm out to grab it. Johnny is relieved to see that they are all safe and he pulls them into the ship. He also removes the anti-grav discs so now they can move freely. Suddenly, they see that their pogo plane is chasing them, and they realize that the Frightful Four have taken the plane. Sandman jumps onto the aircraft and says that he will harden his body to try to weigh down the plane to force them down, but then realizes that the ship is powered by the same anti-grav devices and is unaffected by weight. Sue then uses her force field to grab the pogo plane to then force the others down also. It works. The pogo plane starts falling down to the ground, but before it can land, Sue cushions the fall by putting a force field under the plane. And then she blacks out from all the effort of doing that. The Fantastic Four rush out of the plane to try to capture the Frightful Four. Ben and Johnny watch over the wizard and Sandman while Reed chases down the others. Pastepot Pete tries to shoot Reed with his gun, but Sue, as the Invisible Woman, grabs the gun before he can shoot it. And then Madame Medusa tries to attack Sue, but Sue shoots the paste at Medusa's hair, making it unusable. Then we hear Johnny telling Reed and Sue to take cover because the wizard and Sandman were about to blow up the ship. And before anything else can happen, the ship explodes. And when the FF finally wake up, they realize that the Frightful Four planned on destroying the aircraft so that they wouldn't discover the secrets to the wizard's anti-grav devices. They also realize that the Frightful Four have escaped, and the issue ends with them wondering when they will attack again.